I guess my point, Matt and Seth, is there's never been a time in basketball where those in charge haven't been complaining about it being fucked up. Like, there's never been a time. It was fucked up when I was in school. The coaches would say, the high school coaches are too powerful. The high school coaches are too powerful. Then the AAU coach became too powerful. We got to get the high school coach back in. And they play way too much pickup ball. They need to play more games. They need to do this. They need to do that. And, you know, look, I get it. I'm not happy with everything that goes on in basketball. I'm certainly not happy with everything that goes on in college. But what I will tell you is I would rather have these young people have choice than be restricted. And I don't believe for one second the complaint that there's no loyalty anymore. Like, was it loyalty when we couldn't move? Like, how did loyalty just all of a sudden disappear once there was choice? You know, the players have choice now, and we want to say that players were more loyal when we were all in school. Were we loyal, or did we not have a choice? And I think it's the latter. We didn't have a choice. And, you know, there weren't as many one and dones. You know, we had to stay. Like, when I was in school, Johnny Dawkins didn't go pro early. There wasn't enough money. There was no reason to do it then. And he may differ with this, but I think if Johnny Dawkins were playing college basketball now, he'd be out after his freshman or sophomore year because he wouldn't be able to turn down that kind of payday. It would be irresponsible not to.
And it was an older game back then, Jay. You know, we were coming into the game where there were grown men. These guys were in their 30s, grown men. So it was just like, it was different. But the league is so young now that I feel like the switch. Seth, thoughts?
Yeah, let me ask you. Like, here's the deal, and I think it's kind of it makes sense. College basketball is professional basketball, correct?
Always has been, in my view.
All right. So in professional basketball, you have contracts. You can't basically change teams year to year to year to year. All right. There are rules and regulations and guidelines, and we have none of that. So until we get guidelines, all right, year to year, there's no professional organization, athletic organization, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, pro soccer, you name it, polo lacrosse, that doesn't have year to year, that has year to year free agency, right? Because and those type of enterprises cannot function with year to year free agency. But yet college, that's what we have. So until we find a way to either one-time transfer, a 5-year limit, find contracts where there's a buyout. Like, you know, I know, Jay, you always talk about what the coaches can leave. Yeah, we can leave. And I spent about $500,000 buying out of my contracts the 2 times I left, all right? All right? There's got to be an accountability, and both sides have to have skin in the game. Because right now, the schools have skin in the game. The player doesn't have any. The schools negotiate these NIL, pay-for-play deals. It's not NIL. Let's stop bullshit and call it an NIL. It's not NIL. Very few people have NIL. Maybe you get a little side deals. But the big deals are for the Cooper Flags and those type of players. Until we figure that out,
well, what I would
we
say
have
is
a problem.
I mean, I agree with you.
We have a
what
problem
I would say
in college
is the
athletics.
they're enjoying this chaos in a way. Like, you know, first of all, not one game has been canceled. Not one roster hasn't been filled year to year, and ratings are higher than they've ever been. They're making money hand over fist, and that's great. I don't have a problem with it. Like, football's more popular than it's ever been. Our basketball ratings are higher than they've ever been. And what I think is going on is, look, the NCAA and the member institutions, they are deathly afraid of the players becoming employees of the university. They don't want that. And what they're hoping for is that it is going to appear chaotic while the train keeps rolling to the bank, and Congress is going to come in and give them an antitrust exemption. I don't think that's going to happen. But what could happen, like if Congress really wants to get involved and provide federal assistance here, what I think Congress could do, and it would be very effective, is Congress could come in and say, all right, college athletes are now exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act and from the National Labor Relations Act. They can be independent contractors and sign contracts with their schools, multi-year contracts. And the Congress could provide a pathway and a mechanism for the NCAA to bargain collectively with the players. and the players could bargain for their fair market value under an umbrella like the NBA or the NFL does that provides a rule structure. But I'll give you an example, Seth. To your point about
I got a question
look,
for you.
I think
Do
it could
that.
happen
Go ahead.
with congressional authority because that would require a federal law that would exempt athletes and the schools from federal laws that might be impediments right now. But your point about coaches and buyouts is a good one. All right. Right now, Duke is suing their quarterback over backing out of an NIL deal and trying to transfer to another school. I think that's a good thing. I think schools should enforce their contracts, and I think players that sign contracts should insist on their contracts being performed by the school, but they should have to perform too. They're adults. But your point about one thing I've always found contradictory, and this is not on you or any other coach, it's the schools, every year we go through this. Member institutions will fire their coach and they go out and they hire somebody else's coaches under contract. That would never happen in the NBA or the NFL. That would never be allowed. And that's something the NCAA could do something about, but the presidents don't want to. Like they want to be able to choose when they decide to fire their coach, they want to go out and get whomever they want. And if they disrupt somebody else's, another member institution school,
Lane Kiffin,
they're fine with that. And as you know, there's a domino effect to all that. So I got really tired of administrators with the NCAA and the schools shaking their finger at everybody, talking about integrity all the time when they don't show any. Like you want to use the word integrity, start showing some. And the last ones that need to be limited, in my view, are the players. Like the players have been limited enough. They need, not one person I've heard in any of these debates have said, you know what, we need a salary restriction for coaches. That's too much money for somebody who's interested in education to be making coaching a game. If they're interested in education, they should be taking less. And we need a restriction across the board on coaches. Not one person has said that. It's all about the players being limited. And I find that really short-sighted and almost offensive to the point of being immoral. I think any restriction we have on an athlete, just like any restriction you would put on a coach or an administrator, needs to be bargained for. And a blanket restriction on players only, because they're in the history of the NCAA, the only restrictions that have ever been meted out have been on players. There have never been restrictions on coaches, administrators. They can come and go as they please and as their contracts say. And one last thing, does anybody find it interesting? And I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but interesting that Lane Kiffin leaves a team that is going to the college football playoff to go to another member institution. So the LSU offers him a contract while he's under contract at Ole Miss. Essentially puts him to a decision to leave a team in the college football playoff. And not one coach and not one administrator came out publicly and said, what about loyalty? Right. What about this? What about that? They didn't say any of the crap they say about the players.